Please join me in welcoming Mr. DeFrancisco.
Thank you. President DeGioia, Provost Groves, distinguished faculty, family and friends, and the graduating class of 2013. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to join you today in what is undoubtedly an important milestone in your professional and personal lives. Thank you for inviting me to share this day with you. The achievement of a degree is a true milestone in your life, and I hope you'll always remember the feelings you have today as you celebrate. Celebrate the hard work that led you here, the support of your family, friends, and colleagues, and the enjoyment of seeing the fruits of your labors in the awarding of your degree. And most importantly, to celebrate the bright future that lies ahead. You're learning exciting new skills, you've got new experiences, and a lot to give. And I hope you choose to give that to the communities where you live and work. As I look over the different degrees granted today, I'm struck by the incredible diversity of the fields of endeavor. Liberal studies, public relations, communication, journalism, technology, real estate, sports. Very diverse indeed, but linked together by the common fabric of the Georgetown community and the community of the class of 2013. As a member of the greater capital area community, I'm particularly thrilled that you'll be joining us and bringing those skills and perspectives to our community. Whether you decide to pursue a specialized path of your degree, bring those individual skills to the community as a generalist, or volunteer with an organization such as the Red Cross, I hope that all of you will share that with all of us. I'm reminded of a story that illustrates this. As Moses was leading the people out of bondage, he was suddenly faced with the vast expanse of the Red Sea with no way to get across. The rear guard rolled up and said, "Moses, we have a problem. The Pharaoh's apparently changed his mind. The whole army's behind us." Well, Moses did what anyone would do, what any leader does in this situation. He called a staff meeting. He said, "People, here's the situation. The Red Sea's behind us, in front of us. The Pharaoh's behind us. I need ideas, and I need them now." So he looks across, and the head of engineering raises his hand. He said, "Well, normally, Moses, what I would do is suggest we build a pontoon bridge, put the people across to safety, and destroy the bridge, but there's no time because the Pharaoh's right behind us." He looks at his Secretary of Transportation. "What should we do?" "Well, normally what I do is build some barges and float the people across, but there's no time, the Pharaoh's behind us." Moses gets very disturbed at this point and frustrated, said, "Does anyone have an idea what to do?" Hand goes up in the back of the room, and he looks, and it's his director of public relations. He's stunned, and he says, You have an idea what we should do?" And the reply came, "Well, not really, Moses, but I promise you this. You get us out of this one, I'll get you 1, maybe 2 pages in the Old Testament when it gets published." Everyone's contribution is important, and as leaders of our community, both present and future, it's your responsibility to bring out the best. That's the purpose of education, particularly a Jesuit education. The motto in Gaston Hall reads, "Ad majorem de gloriam inque hominum salutem," for the better glory of God and the salvation of humanity. That means you're called to something higher than yourselves. You're called to serve humanity. We all have roles to play in this pursuit, and the stronger the community is, the better off we'll all be. I can tell you how my work with the Red Cross has taught me the importance of this aspect of our lives, and that's what I'd like to share with you today. Community is a word with several different meanings. The most common are from biology and sociology. Scientifically, it's a group of organisms sharing a populated environment. From a social standpoint, it's usually a relatively small social unit that interacts and shares common values. Both of these apply to our lives, but there's a difference between the two. Biologically, we simply exist in the environment, but socially we interact and we share common values. And in human communities, it means a common set of intents, needs, risks, and beliefs affecting your identity as participants and how you're held together. Biologically speaking, the people you ride the metro with are part of a community. So are the people who ride airplanes with you. But they're certainly not a social community, because by any stretch, the interaction doesn't take place. And if you're anything like me, the less interaction in those experiences, the better. So what makes a social community? Let me reflect back. January 15th, 2009, 3:25 p.m. You're on US Air Flight 1549, heading from New York to Charlotte, North Carolina. You're on the plane with 153 other passengers and crew. Most of them, probably all of them, you've never seen before and never will again. 2 minutes into the flight, there's a loud noise and you hit a flock of birds, and 4 minutes later, you're floating in the frigid waters of the Hudson River. And immediately, we create a social community. Remember the definition: shared intents, needs, and risks. Those are obvious, but where do the beliefs and the values come in? It comes in what your reaction is in this situation, and by all reports, it brought out the best in people in dozens of stories that followed from the survivors. What you might not have heard about was how the larger community came to play, how working vessels on the river, sightseeing boats, community and water ferries sped to the scene to evacuate passengers from the wing of the plane. The first one, by the way, arriving 1.5 minutes after the plane hit the water. And how the first responders came out, notified us at the Red Cross, which we had already picked up on social media, and learning that the survivors were going to both sides of the river, dispatched volunteers from our New York and New Jersey chapters. They were there on the shore to meet the survivors with blankets, comfort kits, and to take down information so we could connect them with their relatives and let them know they were okay. The point of this is not to praise the Red Cross, but to illustrate the concept of community. Everything up to the point of the first responders was spontaneous. Everything after that was the result of a well-rehearsed and orchestrated plan to ensure a community can be resilient. And to link communities like New York, New Jersey, and North Carolina, because in this crisis, they become an extended community forged by the tragedy. So you might be saying, it's an interesting story, but what does this have to do with me and my graduation from Georgetown? It has everything to do with you and the communities where you live and work. It's defining whether you merely exist as an organism or truly live as a member of a full-fledged community. Your first community is probably here today, behind you. Your family, your relatives, and your close friends. It's where you started, it's where you got your beliefs and got your values. And as you started life, that community gave you all your basic needs. As time went on, you were asked to contribute more and more. And gradually you went from being a net recipient of support to a net contributor of support. And I can see by the faces you all know what I'm talking about. So it is in your work life. You're in a new job, you're learning it, you're generally not extremely productive, but there comes a time when your boss and your colleagues expect you to become a net contributor. Okay, training time is over, time to start earning your salary. As I recall from my time in executive education, seeing the same thing. The early days are full of doubt and they're full of confusion, and listening to the professor. Gradually, the professors and colleagues begin to ask you to contribute more and become a net contributor. In fact, building the knowledge base in the class community from your contributions. That's why at the end of the semester, students tend to look more tired and professors look more rested. Have you ever noticed that? That's by intent. So today you stand on the threshold of a new journey with new experiences, skills, and a lot more to contribute than you had when you started. Not just in your personal life and your work life, but in your community life. In a sense, you're being reborn. You have a golden opportunity to redirect yourself in new ways and new directions. And I urge and actually challenge you to use this opportunity to redirect yourselves, to become more involved in your communities and bring your considerable skills to bear in solving community issues and problems. Just like Flight 1549, the community's problem very quickly becomes your problem. I'd like to close with a few quotations from famous people that I think illustrate the subject of community. They're a diverse group, but one with a common thread that weaves through creating the tapestry of how they look at their communities. The first is, I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the community, and as long as I live it, it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can. That comes from Andrew Carnegie, philanthropist and industrialist. The next is, I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. That's Mother Teresa. And finally, I'm a member of the world, but I am my own sanctuary. I can begin and be reborn as many times as I choose throughout my life. That is Lady Gaga. So if you remember nothing else from the address, you can tell people you heard a guy give a speech quoting Andrew Carnegie, Mother Teresa, and Lady Gaga in the same period of time. So They're different, but they all have something to contribute. I don't think Mother Teresa ever ran a steel mill. Lady Gaga is not likely to start a religious order anytime soon, and you won't be seeing Andrew Carnegie on YouTube in any videos. But each, in his or her own way, expresses the same concept and principles. I can be what I choose to be, but the key to my success and happiness is making a difference to others in my community. The need's never been greater, not only economically, but in the natural and man-made disasters that you read about in the papers every day. You can help your community be more physically and fiscally resilient. I know this because I came upon my career late in life, but this is now what I do for a living. I can tell you it's not only fulfilling, it's a lot of fun. Sometimes we think of service as something that we have to give, but I can promise you, you get much more back than you give when you serve your community. I've seen people, mostly volunteers, in places like Haiti, Japan, and Vietnam working to make their communities safer. I've also seen them in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Joplin, Missouri, Coney Island, New York, and Union Beach, New Jersey, recovering from devastating disasters, but working together to make their communities safer and more resilient for the next time disaster strikes. So thank you again for inviting me to share your celebration. I hope you take this opportunity to redirect yourselves and get active. It can be a faith-based group, it can be a neighborhood organization, a community council, or a not-for-profit like the Red Cross. Now is the time for you to make that decision. Do I want to just simply exist in my environment, or do I want to be part of something bigger and greater and make a difference? The choice is yours, and I hope and trust you'll do it wisely. Thank you.